truth seekers across the fruited plain. Welcome back to Patriot Network Productions. We're here to do Climategate Part 4. Today I want to finish up this whole issue, and I want to finish it up from a very practical, nuts and bolts standpoint. I want you to think about the claim by East Anglia University that their data was dumped, that it was thrown away because it really wasn't, the original data really wasn't important. Now, I want you to ask yourself, I want every grandmother, grandfather, father, mother, aunt, uncle listening to this little production to ask yourself, if your son or daughter was on the dean's list at college and it appeared in the local paper, wouldn't you cut that out and save it? And years later, you wouldn't say, oh, we got tired, they were so successful, everybody knew they were genius, we didn't have to hold on to those anymore. Everybody knows, all rational people know our children are geniuses. If you wanted to prove to say, oh, I don't know, graduate school admittance committees, that your son or daughter had done well in their undergraduate degree, you'd have all those report cards, you'd have all those transcripts, you'd have the articles from the newspaper talking about their Eagle Scout project that helped the community. You'd have everything they'd ever done, and you'd have it documented. Saying for the East Anglia University to say that they dumped the data, and it's no big deal, that all they have now is the adjusted data. Remember, Disraeli and Mark Twain both said there's three types of lies. Lies, damned lies, and statistics, okay? So all we have now is the adjusted, the tricked data, the data that we've tricked out. So we got rid of the medieval warm period, and we got rid of the little ice age, and it looks just like we want. It's the man hockey stick, which Professor Wegman, past president of the American Statistical Association, said was a fraud. Said there was no way to get from the data that man had to the graph that he published. Said that the data that he had did not support any of the conclusions he made. That's just the straight peer-reviewed science. They brought in someone who was an expert on statistics, they reviewed it and said, nope, that's not what it is. But back to grandmothers and grandfathers, fathers and mothers. If you wanted to brag about your kids, and trust me, that's what it is in academia, when you have research, when you go out and find data, and the data statistically gets analyzed and provides information that supports your theory of the universe, you can't wait to tell people about it, and you can't wait to show them the data. You don't destroy it, ever, because it's proof. It's lasting proof. It's validation of who you are. It's one thing to go off to college and get a bachelor's degree. It's another thing to go off and get a bachelor's and a master's. And it's an entirely other creature altogether to go get a bachelor's, a master's, and a PhD and write your dissertation. Do original research on your own and go through this excruciating process of bringing the dissertation to the committee over and over and over again. The best metaphor for this is they're a proud owner of a dog throwing the bone for you to go fetch. And after you fetched it for the 5 millionth time, you don't like the owner anymore, he doesn't like you, and finally they sign off on it and you go bye-bye. But you still have that data. You would never, ever throw away the picture of your son's first step. You would never throw away the picture of your daughter playing her first recital. That's what data is to a scientist. If the data is true, nobody throws it away. If the data supports what you're saying, nobody throws it away. Prima facie, on its face, prima facie evidence of a fraud and a scam is the fact they threw away the original data. Period. End of report. And oh, by the way, if we just reverse one word in the lead story, if the Bush administration said that the original data they had showing that global warming was a fraud and a scam had been thrown away, and all they had was the adjusted data, the New York Times wouldn't say, oh, that's good enough for us. The Washington Post wouldn't say, oh, that's good enough for us. But the head of the IPCC was out today saying, oh, this East Anglia thing, tempest in a teapot, doesn't even matter, not even important. The majority of the IPCC third and fourth assessment reports are really based on 5 data sets. And they're really the chapters that matter, the chapters on what to do from a climatological perspective, are based on the work of about 35 climatologists, not the 2,500 number you hear all the time. Now, I'm telling you, if the data was worth anything, John Nance Gardner said the Vice Presidency of the United States isn't worth a bucket of warm piss. If the data was worth what John Nance Gardner thought the Vice Presidency was worth, they would have kept it. The fact that they threw it out, that they dumped it, and all they had is the adjusted data. We've just got the data that we've adjusted, manipulated. That, in and of itself, is the clearest proof to you, as a normal, rational human being, that they don't have the goods. If they had the goods, they'd have the original data. Science is an adversarial process. You bring forward your hypothesis, you work the scientific method, you observe the natural world, you categorize those observations over a long period of time from multiple locations. You have multi-method and you have multi-statistical analytic approaches. You do multi-point and multi-method analysis of the data. You try to get multiple views of the data. And when you have enough data, then you do an analysis that absolutely takes care of every single possibility. We used to talk about making the dissertation bulletproof. We want it to be like Kevlar, because when you went back to the committee, they would pick apart any problem there was. For global warming to talk seriously, for the global warming alarmists to talk seriously about spending $100 trillion over the next century. And now the head of the IPCC is talking about, well, we need $10 billion as a down payment this year. That is a fraud. Nobody gets $10 billion with no data to back it up, no data that can be reviewed. From day one, people like myself who have been skeptical about global warming said we'd like to see the original data, and we were stonewalled. And when push came to shove and we were actually going to get a chance at the original data, you know what happened? They dumped it. It disappeared. That's game over. There is no more question in my mind that this is a fraud and a scam. Now, for you as a consumer, in the middle of 10.2% unemployment, in the middle of the worst recession in the modern history of the United States, the worst since the Great Depression, now referred to as the Great Recession, do you want to add somewhere in the neighborhood of $10 to $100 billion a year in taxes for energy? Do you want to restrict the flow of energy such that the price of energy goes up somewhere in the neighborhood of $300 to $600 per household in America? Do you want to cause that kind of inflation? Do you want to stop the recovery on the basis of data that is not there? It isn't even just a question of bad data. They dumped it. All that's there is the data they've tricked, that they've adjusted. In the Mark Twain sense, lies, damned lies, and statistics. Now we're down to the worst part of the lies. Listen to me. You know in your gut when someone's telling you the truth. If they want you to believe that they shot an elk with a 20-foot rack, they better have the 20-foot rack. If they say they dumped the rack because they mean you trust them, hold on to your wallet. Go out and enjoy the weather. It's the only weather we got. We'll see you